I feel like Nugget is already judging me. I have started getting into more of my romance book era. I feel like this would be a great pick for me to pick up during the fall. That kind of makes me think of a Wendigo. Fall is definitely going to be my season for this book. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Rochelle. We also happen to have a Nugget here. I don't know how long, but as you can see behind me, I read a variety of books and I also have a disability. And today what we're gonna do is go over my fall TBR. Now, I know you've probably seen a lot of other booktubers go and do these videos, and I think it's easy to go and say that a lot of us here on booktube are so excited for the fall season. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I just really enjoy wearing cozy sweaters, going and curling up with a good book and a nice cup of tea, and getting into those burr months, as a lot of people refer to them, is just the time that I always look forward to. I've just never been a summer girly. I'm not really the type of girl that loves to go and not wear my cozy layers, although I do love a good sundress. But I have kind of put together a really vast variety of books that I would love to somehow squeeze into the fall time to go and read. As you know, I usually do my little Defend the TBR game, which I'll leave a link for here, and that goes and picks a lot of different books from my TBR that I would like to read. However, there are a bunch of them that I still would love to somehow manage to make time for, and so I have put together a list of 15 books that I would love to just go and squeeze into at some point during those burr months. I've kind of split them up between cozy, romance, some fantasy and darker fantasy, as well as, of course, my favorite, which is thrillers. So we'll go through all of those. I honestly had even more books that I could have picked out aside from these 15. So if for whatever reason you'd like to go and see a part 2 for this, please let me know down in the comments below. I also do make videos that are, of course, Defend the TBR, so a fun bookish TBR game that I created myself. I also do a lot of book hauls here. And I'm also trying to get a bunch of bookish vlogs as well. Those are a little bit harder for me to go and do, but if any of those seem to be right up your alley, please go and consider leaving a subscribe for this channel so that you can get notified whenever I make more bookish videos. But with that being said, let us get started going through some of the books. I think I'm going to start with this pile here, which are more of the cozy fantasy or romance books. I feel like Nugget is already judging me. So first one up I have is Hopelessly Devoted, and this is by Audrey Goldberg Ruff. I don't think I'm saying that right, but I actually got this one as an ARC through Atria, and it actually comes out on September 16th, so I really would love to read it before then. I just love the cover of this. It just seems very cozy, very witchy, and of course it has tea mentioned in the title, which I am a huge tea drinker. My anxiety doesn't really allow me to go and have coffee, so tea is usually my drink of choice. But just so you get a little bit of information on this one, Azriel Azamade Hart must be cursed. He's back at his family manor in Hollow Cross after a failed screenwriting career. He's adopted a cat he's allergic to, and if all of that is not enough, he's also forced to come face to face with his childhood best friend and former crush. Victoria Starnberger, the bubbly girl next door, has just been disowned by her parents for quitting business school and buying Azriel's late parents' beloved shop, Hopelessly Devoted. Cut off financially, Vicky now owes a lesser devil the souls her parents promised him in exchange for her gift of summoning the dead by burning an object they treasured in life. I don't know why, but I am just so excited for this one. It might have like some darker elements to it, but for some reason this time kind of gives me the cozy vibes that one of my favorite shows, The Good Witch, gave me. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe there's some of those Hallmark movie values. So this one is one that I'm very excited for, and also has been on my list to do because I really want to try to read a lot of the arcs before their due dates so I can go and talk about them more and leave reviews for them. Then next I have is Fall I Want by Lyra Parrish. This says, love is brewing in Cozy Creek where falling leaves lead to falling in love. I just love the cover of this one. I also really love the gorgeous sprayed edges on this. This just screams cozy for me. And For some of you that have been around my channel since the beginning, you know that I tend to prefer more thrillers, mystery, horror books, but I have started getting into more of my romance book era, and I've been having such a blast with it. So when I saw this one, I was really excited for it, also because I just think it's a gorgeous book. I love all the details in the cover and the sprayed edges. This says, Fall I Want is a feel-good, spicy, small-town romantic comedy with a billionaire who falls first and harder. Grab a pumpkin spice latte, a warm fuzzy blanket, and make your way down to Cozy Creek. I mean, so many things in that little summary just scream my name and make me want to run over and start reading the book right away. The broken-hearted billionaire visits Cozy Creek to escape. I never expected to become his fake girlfriend or fall madly in love, but here we are. My first impression of Zane Alexander isn't great. The second is worse, but when he uses his powers of persuasion to get me to hang out with him, I can't say no. We quickly go from familiar strangers to flirty friends. When my ex returns, Zane flawlessly pretends to be my boyfriend to protect me. He's so damn good at it. I almost believe it. I don't know when our relationship moves from pretending to passionate, but I catch feelings. As our exes desperately crawl back into our lives like zombies, I realize there is only one man for me, and Fall I Want is him. It has... So in Fall, down here, it has F in parentheses, and I think that's so cheesy and cute. But fake dating is also one of my favorite romance tropes. I love fake dating. I love enemies to lovers, also small town romances. Those are usually some of my favorites. And then if you sprinkle in representation of any sort, you immediately capture my attention. So I'm very excited for this one. I might wait a little bit more once the leaves start to change outside and start falling, for lack of better words, but I'm very excited for this one. I just think it's going to be so cute and cozy, and I'm very excited. Then another cozy fall type of book I have is Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. It says, believing in yourself is its own kind of magic. I believe I hauled this book last year and I was really hoping to get to it, but I just didn't get the chance. Also, Nugget is eating, so I apologize for the crunchy puppy dog ASMR that's in the background, but if you like it, then heck yeah. Huge win. But I know Lucy Jane Wood also came out with another book, and I'm obsessed with the covers of her books. I feel like they just scream cozy, which I'm always here for. But this says, in the spellbinding, warm, and cozy debut novel, a burned-out witch will need to turn to her friends and trust herself to find the magic in her own life again. Belladonna Blackthorn hasn't lost her magical spark, precisely, but she hasn't seen it in a while either. With her witchcraft under wraps and a toxic boss making her days miserable, Belle is struggling to keep her beloved lunar books afloat and just make it through the day. The last thing she has time for is perfecting her magic. This book just seems so adorable and cozy, and I'm really hoping to get the chance to read it this year. It's not too thick of a book either, so I feel like maybe this one and this one would be the perfect pairing to go and read together while curling up on the reading couch, if Nugget will let me. Then the last one I kind of have in my cozy category would be The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I have probably mentioned this book on my channel more times than I can count. It has really been a book that I've wanted to read, but the mood just has never hit me. I feel like in the back of my mind, I've kind of been waiting for the fall to return to go and try to pick up this book again. So let's see if the 100th time is a charm to read this one. A lush cottagecore tale full of stolen spell books, unexpected friendships, sweet jams, and even sweeter love. Keela has always had trouble dealing with people. Thankfully, as a librarian at the Great Library of Elysium, she and her assistant Kaz, a magically sentient spider plant, have spent the last decade sequestered among the Empire's most precious spellbooks, preserving their magic for the city's elite. When a revolution begins and the library goes in flames, she and Kaz flee with all the spellbooks they can carry and head to a remote island Keela never thought she'd see again. Her childhood home. Taking refuge there, Keela discovers, much to her dismay, a nosy and very handsome neighbor who can't take a hint and keeps showing up day after day to make sure she's fed and to help fix up her new home. I'm very excited for this one. I also am just so curious about the sentient spider plant. I am trying to get back into plants. I have a few pitcher plants. I tend to have a lot of carnivorous plants. Those kind of are my plant of choice. So I'm hoping that going and reading this book might also get me a little bit more inspired to take care of my little plant family, and also maybe pick up the other book that this author has, which is The Enchanted Greenhouse. Then I have a bunch of fantasies here. There might be a few in this pile that are a little bit more on the darker side, but nevertheless I felt like going and grouping these all together would be a great idea. So let's go through this pile next. Starting off with the first one I have here, which is Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. This is book 1. I have this gorgeous edition that has these sprayed edges. I got them from Atria. And I have the second book as well, and I'm hoping to get the third book when it releases with the sprayed edges, just so I can kind of have all of them match on my bookshelves. But this has been one that I've heard nothing but good things about and have really wanted to go and read. When old secrets catch fire, everything will burn. An immortal world colonized by the gods and ruled over by the Descended, their cruel magical offspring. Diem Bellator yearns to escape her poor village. Her mother's sudden disappearance and the discovery of a dangerous secret about her past offer Diem an unexpected opportunity to enter the dark world of Descended royalty and unlock the web of mysteries her mother left behind. With a dying king's handsome, enigmatic heir watching her every move, and a ruthless rebel alliance recruiting her to join the growing civil war, Diem will have to navigate the unwritten rules of love, power, and politics in order to save her family and all of mortal kind. I'm so curious about this one, and like I said, I've heard a lot of people rave about how much they love these books, how much they couldn't put them down, and also how emotional they all made them. So I'm hoping that this fall will finally be my chance to go and read them, because I'm so curious, and I'd love to finally have an idea of what's going on with these books. Then I have Anathema by Carrie Lake. This has been one that I have just constantly had on my list to go and read, but just haven't had the chance. I want to say that it could be because the book is a little bit on the thicker side, and just with the reading slump I was in over the summer, I didn't want to pick up any books that were a little bit chunky because I was so worried that it would take me forever to get through them, especially with the reading slump I was in. And during that time, I have heard lots of people talk about how much they loved this book and how gothic and creepy it was. And so that is why I feel like this would be a great pick for me to pick up during the fall. There are whispers about what lurks in Witch Nell, the forest where sinners go to die. The villagers call it the Eating Woods because what's taken is never given back. Only those who've lost their senses would dare to go near it. Or the Banished. Mavith Bronwick knows better than to breach the misty labyrinth of trees. But a tragic turn of events compels her beyond the archway of bones to a boundary no mortal has crossed before, one that cloaks a dark and fantastical world that's as dangerous as it is alluring. It's there that he dwells, the cursed lord of Eidolon, the one tasked to keep her hidden from the magehood that seeks to crucify her in the name of an arcane prophecy. I'm just so curious about this one. I also just love how dark, creepy, and gothic the cover looks, so this is definitely one that I'm hoping to read maybe when I'm in the need of something a little bit more creepy and terrifying. It's probably one I'm gonna read when there's less leaves on the trees and it kind of gives more of the look of like dead trees, like the cover. Then I have House of Blight by Maxim M. Martineau, and I actually got this book from the author themselves. They were actually giving away extra copies of their book, and it was kind of a first come first serve situation. I reached out and I was one of the few lucky people that was able to get a copy. And I've meant to go and read this for a while now, but I feel like now getting into the fall time might be the perfect time to read this book. Adira Brilwin is a thread mender. She holds a rare life-saving power that can cure disease and heal injuries in the blink of an eye. But magic always comes with a cost, and saving anyone sacrifices a sliver of her own life. She's always kept her abilities hidden, until the powerful Fernglove family discovers her secret. I'm really excited for this, and I feel like I've heard like there's a bug daddy or something like that in these books. So I'm a little bit curious about that piece, but maybe also a little bit intimidated because I am just starting to kind of get into my romance era. So I'm not really in line with a lot of people that read books with like shadow daddies or any of those things. So we'll have to see how this goes. The next book I have in our fantasy category would be A Forbidden Alchemy by Stacey McEwen. I got the ARC for this book, but when I was up in Crested Butte with my fiance and their mom, I saw this gorgeous edition. So I had to go and get this stunning edition. There are quite a few gorgeous editions of this book, and I'm gonna wait until after I read it before I see if I want to go and get those other copies. So this says Nina Harrow and Patrick Coulson are only 12 years old when they are whisked from their disenfranchised mining towns to dazzling Belvedere City to test her magical abilities. Nina's lifelong dream is to become an artisan, a powerful elemental mage who fulfills the city's grand ambitions, while Patrick wants only to reunite with his family of craftsmen in the mines. Together they discover a devastating secret. Artisans aren't born, but chosen. With this one, I've heard so many good reviews on this book, but I've also heard that this one is a little bit more of a slow burn and not necessarily any spice, or if there is spice, it's very minimal. However, I think the author has said, because this is going to be a series, that the next ones are going to have more spice in them. So that's something to keep in mind with this book, especially if you're wanting something a little bit more on the romantic side, at least from what I've heard. Then the next one that I kind of have in my fantasy category would be Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I have really wanted to pick this one up ever since it came out. But again, because it was on the thicker side, I just didn't want to try reading this while I was in my reading slump. But I have been counting down the days that I can go and read it. I also have a signed edition as well. And everyone that I've heard read this so far has had nothing but great reviews. So fall is definitely going to be my season for this book. This is a story about hunger. 1532, Santo Domingo de la Calzada. A young girl grows up wild and wily. Her beauty is only outmatched by her dreams of escape, but Maria knows she can only ever be a prize or a pawn in the games played by men. When an alluring stranger offers an alternative path, Maria makes a desperate choice. She vows to have no regrets. I've heard that this is a lesbian vampire book, and I am so curious and excited to go and read this one. Last category we have is a bunch of horror and thriller books. Like I said, I really had a hard time going and picking at least just 15 books that you're seeing in this video. So if you want to see a part 2, definitely let me know, because I have even more books that I would like to somehow read in fall, and I have no idea if that's going to happen, but we can only try. So starting off with the first one and the horror one, this is The Rule of Three by Sam Ripley. This is one that I got from Atria as well, and this was on one of my book hauls, I think like a few months ago. But it says, "That's the one, that's the girl who's going to die. I don't believe in the rule of three, not at first. It was just one of those urban myths you hear about all the time. A story my boyfriend told me about a girl cursed by the number 3. A girl whose parents had killed themselves after her sibling had died in an accident, which meant that she was doomed to die too, because that's the rule of 3. Bad things always happen in threes, they say, and they are right, because it's happening again. But this time the curse is coming for me, and worst of all, it's coming for you too." I think that it's pretty obvious why I've been waiting to read this book during the fall time. I think the description of the book is so eerie and creepy, and I might want to read this one maybe around night, just when it's dark out and everything, to really bring up that fear factor for this book. Then the next book I have out of my horror picks would be The Wilderness Reform by Matt Query and Harrison Query. I also got this book from Atria as well, and I really love something about horror books, especially when they take place in a forest. I just think it really brings up a lot of those Halloween creepy vibes. So this says, do they have the skills to survive, or will night be the death of them? Ben is sent to a remote reform program for troubled teens by a juvenile court judge. But when he arrives at the camp located on the edge of the vast wilderness of northwestern Montana, he sees that there is something off about the counselors. They're too friendly and upbeat. Yet Ben can tell there's an undercurrent of menace. I'm so excited for this. I also really love the skull that you kind of get in the background. I just think it adds to those extra creepy vibes, and I'm so excited to read this one. Then I kind of have a few different books that I think I've mentioned in the past for my horror bingo board. There might be a few of you that recognize Wicked Reading, aka Sarah's horror bingo board. She did this for at least like a year-long horror bingo that you could go and do, and there's an easy mode and a hard mode for this. I'll go and link the original video as well as my video where I picked out my horror bingo board. But when I ended up going and doing my picks, I decided I really wanted to do the hard mode. However, I haven't been the best at going and completing it, trying to read books for each of the prompts. So I have at least 3 books that I'm going to go and bring up that are a few that I would really love to get to before the end of the horror bingo. I believe it ends on October 31st. The first one I have here is Small Horrors by Darcy Coates. Darcy Coates is one of my favorite authors. I've slowly been working on reading through her backlist, and this one is a collection of 50 creepy stories. I believe for hard mode on Sarah's bingo board, you had to read a book that had at least like, I think 10 plus short stories. So when I saw this one, I was really excited. I don't usually read books that have a bunch of short stories in them, but because it's something that Darcy Coates did, I'm willing to make an exception. And and on the back of the book, it says something mimics human voices as it lures you into the woods. That kind of makes me think of a Wendigo. One of the morgue's corpses is missing. Your friend wants to meet late at night, but they are not acting like themselves. Immerse yourself in the macabre, the gothic, and the chilling with this collection of 50 short stories. I feel like this is going to be so scary and terrifying and might make it a little bit hard for me to sleep at night, but I'm also very excited. So we'll see how this one goes. Then I have No Exit. So this was also one of the prompts where I believe you had to read a book that had a movie rendition of it. However, the only way that this would count for hard mode is you couldn't have watched that movie yet. And this was one of the few books that I have where I haven't watched the movie rendition of it. So 13 hours, 4 strangers, 1 missing child, no exit. She knows her odds, she'll fight anyway. On her way to Utah to see her dying mother, college student Darby Thorne gets caught in a fierce blizzard in the Colorado Rockies. With the roads impassable, she's forced to wait out the storm at a remote highway rest stop with no cell phone reception. Inside are some vending machines, a coffee maker, and 4 complete strangers. Desperate to find a signal to call home, the exhausted young art student goes back out into the storm and makes a horrifying discovery. In the back of the van, parked next to her car, is a little girl locked in an animal crate. Who is the child? Why has she been taken? And how can Darby save her? I'm so excited and curious for this one. I've had a few people in the past that have said that they really liked the movie rendition of this book, so I'm excited to check this one out. I might wait until we kind of get towards the part of the year where we seem like we're gonna get snow, so I'll probably read this one closer to the end of October before I run out of time for the horror bingo board. Then another one that I have that I'm hoping to read that would also count for that horror bingo board is I'll Be Waiting by Kelly Armstrong. I also really love how the cover of this book is. I think it's so beautiful with the creepy Ouija board piece right here, but also then these beautiful flowers in the background. I just think that those 2 pieces go so beautifully together. And this one says Nicola Lawton never expected to see adulthood after being diagnosed with cystic fibrosis as a child. Then medical advances let her live into her 30s, and she met Anton, who taught her to dream of a future together. But mere months after getting married, Anton died in a horrible car crash, uttering to her with his final breath, "I'll be waiting for you." I'm very curious about this one. I kind of get a little bit maybe like Insidious vibes from it, but I'm definitely very curious for this one and feel like this would be such a good creepy book to read in the fall time as well. Then the last horror book we have here is Hex by Thomas Old Hoovelt. I don't think I'm saying that right, but this has been one that I think I first learned about through Book Talk by someone that I love watching who kind of reads a lot of the same books that I really like reading, and she really enjoyed this book. So this one says, "Whoever's born here is doomed to stay till death. Whoever settles never leaves. Welcome to Black Spring, the seemingly picturesque Hudson Valley town haunted by the Black Rock Witch, a 17th century woman whose eyes and mouth are sewn shut. Muzzled, she walks the streets and enters homes at will. She stands next to children's beds for nights on end. Everybody knows that her eyes may never be opened, or the consequences will be too terrible to bear." This one sounds absolutely horrifying, but I'm really excited for this. The description of this book kind of gives me similar vibes to Where He Can't Find You by Darcy Coates, and I really loved that book so much because I felt like it was just the perfect book to read during the fall Halloween time. So I'm definitely ready and excited to pick this one up as well, and also ready to be probably terrified and have a hard time falling asleep. So those were the 15 books that I have on my personal fall TBR. It's a pretty hefty one. I don't think I'm gonna get to a lot of those books, but I feel like at least having a vast option of books to pick from will really help, especially when the mood hits to maybe read like a horror book, a cozy fantasy book, a romance book. Any of those, I'll at least have some options to choose from, which might help with how difficult sometimes it can be to make a decision and pick a book that fits the mood. But if you'd like to see another video like this, I definitely have even more books that I would potentially want to read for fall, so I can definitely go and do that. I'm also planning on doing my own personal fall recommendation list, so if you want to hear about some books that I've read and loved and think would be perfect to read during the fall time, I can definitely make that here soon as well. If there are any books that are on your fall TBR, I'd love to hear them down in the comments below. And if you've made it to this point in the video and don't know what to comment, I think it would be perfect to maybe go and leave like the fall leaves emote down in the comments below, just to also add some additional hype for fall time, because like I said in the beginning of the video, I am so excited and ready for fall. I can't wait to wear my cozy sweaters without sweating buckets because of how warm it is. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm here for it. I'm counting down the days until I can walk outside with my cozy sweaters. And as always, I want to remind you all that you are worthy and capable of amazing things. Bye, friends. These animals are wilding. Ah! Every time the camera's on, she's like, I need love now. Although there's some, oh, hi Nugs. Hi, baby. Hi. Yes, thank you. Do you have any fall books? No, she just wants to knock over my books and make them fall. The animals are wilding. Cicero! Cicero! Cicero's trying to get in the closet. No. No. You can't. Hi, Nux. Hi. Oh, you're just such a baby. Yeah, you're such a baby. Always whenever the camera's on. You know that? Always. Yes, you're cute. Boop. Thank you for kiss. Thank you for kiss. Okay, go lay down.